Welcome to Synapse Daily. Take a very deep breath now. Feel the oxygen fill your lungs. Now, imagine that air is disappearing. Imagine every breath is a struggle. This is not a horror movie. This was a real scientific mission. To understand it, we must travel. We must go back to 1961. The world was a different place. The Cold War was at its peak. Nuclear tension was everywhere in 1961. The Iron Curtain divided the East. The West was trembling in fear. Space was the new, final frontier. Yuri Gagarin had just orbited Earth. The stars were calling our names. Kennedy was dreaming of the moon. But one man had other plans. His name was John Polk Allen. He was a man of steel. He was a man of verse. He was a metallurgist from Harvard. He was also a wandering poet. He looked at the barren desert. He didn't see just empty sand. He saw the future of humanity. In 1961, he drafted a vision. It was the first Biosphere 2 concept. It was a blueprint for survival. He asked a terrifying, vital question. Can we survive without Mother Earth? Can we build a second womb? He knew the stars were hostile. Space is a vacuum of death. To live there, we needed Earth. But a portable version of Earth. This was the 1961 Plan B. It was bold, crazy, and brilliant. John Allen was a charismatic leader. He gathered a tribe of believers. They were called the Synergists. They were not typical lab coat scientists. They were thinkers, builders, and dreamers. They founded the Synergia Ranch first. They practiced living in closed loops. They recycled their own waste there. They grew their own organic food. Allen called humans a wandering species. We were destined to leave Earth. But we were not ready yet. We were like infants in space. In 1961, his drafts were revolutionary. He saw biology as a machine. A machine that needed perfect balance. He studied the flow of energy. He studied the cycle of carbon. He knew nature was a symphony. Every insect had a vital role. Every microbe was a tiny gear. Could he recreate this complex symphony? NASA was building tin cans. Allen wanted to build a garden. A garden protected by glass walls. A garden that could breathe forever. This was the ultimate human challenge. Could a poet outsmart the vacuum? The world was about to find out. Fast forward to the Arizona sun. The Sonoran Desert is a furnace. The heat waves dance on sand. Then, a massive structure rises up. It looks like a crystal pyramid. It is a cathedral of light. It covers 3.15 acres. Think about that massive scale now. 2 football fields under one roof. 6,500 glass panes. Every pane was sealed by hand. But the magic was underneath. A giant stainless steel technosphere existed. It was a 500-ton steel pan. It blocked the Earth's natural soil. Why? Because control was everything. One leak would ruin the data. One leak would kill the dream. Inside this bottle, they built worlds. They didn't just plant some trees. They engineered 5 distinct biomes. First, a steaming, thick rainforest grew. They brought soil from the Amazon. They brought rare, exotic jungle plants. Then, they built a mini ocean. It held 1 million gallons of water. It had a real, living reef. They even created mechanical ocean waves. Then came the foggy, wet marsh. Next was the dry, golden savanna. Finally, a stark, sandy coastal desert. It was a miniature planet Earth. It was a masterpiece of art. They even built 2 giant lungs. These were massive, round white domes. Inside, giant rubber membranes hung. They weighed 20 tons each. They rose as the sun heated. They fell as the night cooled. The building was literally breathing air. It cost $200 million. A billionaire named Ed Bass paid. He believed in Allen's 1961 vision. It was the world's greatest experiment. September 26, 1991, was the day. The desert air was very still. 8 brave souls stood in line. 4 men and 4 brilliant women. They were the Biospherians. They wore bright red, iconic suits. The world's media was watching them. Cameras captured their final smiles. They waved goodbye to the wind. They waved goodbye to the rain. The heavy steel airlock hissed shut. The door was welded tight now. 2 years of total isolation began. The mission was simple but hard. Survive and maintain the balance. At first, it was a dream. The mornings were filled with dew. They drank coffee grown inside. They ate sweet, fresh papayas. They swam in their private sea. They felt like gods of creation. But the desert is a cruel place. The sun began to hide behind clouds. The winter was unusually dark. The plants didn't get enough light. The oxygen cycle began to break. Carbon dioxide levels began to soar. The air became thin and sour. It was a slow, invisible death. By the second year, crisis hit. Oxygen dropped to 14%. That is like living on Everest. The crew's faces turned blue-gray. They struggled to walk 10 feet. They stopped sleeping at night. Their brains would forget to breathe. They would wake up gasping loudly. "Where is the oxygen?" they cried. They checked every glass seal again. They checked every steel weld again. There were no leaks to find. The oxygen was just gone. Then, a young scientist found it. The culprit was the very walls. The fresh concrete was still curing. It was absorbing the carbon dioxide. The oxygen was being trapped forever. The house was eating the air. The crew began to starve too. They couldn't grow enough heavy crops. They lost huge amounts of weight. Their eyes became sunken and dark. They looked like ghosts in glass. Tension grew in the thin air. The group fractured into 2 teams. They hated each other with passion. They wouldn't look at each other. Yet, they were stuck in a bottle. The 1961 dream was turning dark. The experiment finally ended in 1993. The doors were opened at last. The air rushed in with force. The crew stepped out into wind. The media called it a failure. They called it a scientific circus. But they were wrong, Kang Kasim. It was a magnificent, loud success. We learned more in those years. We learned nature is not code. Nature is a wild, complex beast. You cannot just build a planet. You cannot just engineer a womb. John Allen's 1961 draft proved this. Earth is a miracle of balance. It is a fragile, beautiful dance. Biosphere 2 stands in Arizona today. It is a monument to our curiosity. It is a warning to our ego. There is no plan B, friends. There is no escape from Earth. We must cherish this blue marble. It is our only home forever. Like this video if you learned. Comment your thoughts below now. Subscribe for more fascinating daily stories.